And we're back for another edition of the Trumpstein mind map. And the wonderful news of today that finally there's some big arrests that we can hold a hat on, with Prince Andrew being arrested earlier today. Definitely wasn't expecting that. So, I mean, it's on kind of a technicality, and it's not really to do so much with some of this more serious crimes he's been accused of in the files. But it's at least a start. So definitely excited about that. I did kind of, like, it was sort of a breaking news thing, so I was trying to get as much as I could together for this, for a bit of a presentation ahead of jumping into the mind map, which, I mean, we were kind of overdue here. I'll just jump over quick here. We're kind of overdue for doing an update for this one anyways. I've been kind of working on it still in the background and adding a lot more stuff to it with some of the more newer accusations and with stuff in the files, making some of the more broader connections between Trump and the Epstein network. But obviously today we're going to be focusing mainly on this arrest and the newer connection with we were touching on it last night on the Hollywood mind map, the Brock Pierce connection with the digital currency exchanges between crypto and just digital currency gaming platform digital currency structures, which tie back to some other pretty heinous, especially heinous Hollywood crimes a decade ago. And back then he had plausible deniability, but and because he was a lot younger then, but now he's an adult and he's finding himself in a very similar situation that we've happened to have been covering quite extensively. I guess I forgot to put the thing back on. That's okay. I've been covering quite extensively on the mind map, the Hollywood mind map, in relation to the one great big P3DO den that's still just been like this rotten plague hanging over the industry, because nothing really came of it. None of the people that were accused faced really any consequences. The one main guy, Mark Collins Rector, ended up fleeing, very similar to like the Plansky thing. So there's a lot to get into with that. And actually, I'm probably going to do a video follow-up on that, so I don't want to get too much into that tonight, I don't think. I think we're still going to mainly focus on the Prince Andrew of it all. But, yeah, there's a lot of new developments with stuff we've already been covering, which is awesome, I guess, in a way, because it's just further confirmation. Like, just shows we're already going in the right direction. We're making the right connections even before some of these files were dropping. So we're on the right track, and I think as more developments are being made and more things are being revealed, we're making progress. You know, it might just be a little bit of at a time, but progress is progress, so it does deserve to be celebrated. But welcome, guys. Good to see you, Catatonic and Jin, Dev G, Hesky Weebo, Amaya. Welcome, everybody. I guess before we get any further, I should maybe ask if the sound's working. Can you guys hear me? Is everything working today? Had a little bit of sound issues at the beginning of the stream last night. The intro I did for our guest didn't end up coming through. We had jumped on earlier too, and I checked everything to make sure everything was lining up and that their voice was going to come through, mine was going to come through. It was all going to come through one feed and be a little cleaner than the last time we had a guest. Because when we had Dez on the last time, there ended up being some delay, and it was just not an ideal. It was sort of impromptu, so it didn't end up coming through good. So I think we might have to circle back to that as well, because yeah, there was too much overlap, there was too much of a delay, and there was parts where I was like kind of talking over. It was kind of a messy recording. But we're circling back to everything, because all of it is kind of coming into play once again. With what she's been talking about, her mind map with the Diddy side of things, and how a lot of this stuff is intersecting, like with the Brock Pierce is intersecting, you know, just even the Kiana thing we were talking last night about being the Nickelodeon and that same sphere. Things are starting to overlap more with what other people have been kind of following along, have been covering too, so it's been interesting. Yeah, loud and clear, we're good, and it looks like the chat thing's working. Okay, good. Yeah, I've changed the setup a bit, and I'd gotten a new microphone, and I'd made some different updates and stuff, so sometimes now, I guess, like, flipping it over from the recording software to this OBS, like, I've got to just manually, like, triple check every time, because I have had some weird tech issues, like based on flying closer to the sun sometimes. But I think in this case, it's just a matter of the new, bringing in some new things and trying to get it to stay connected. But no big deal, as long as we can hear today. So yeah, he's been arrested, and it's more about the misconduct in public office, that he had been communicating with Epstein and apparently leaking some government or royal secrets is more what they're leaning on. Which, I mean, out of all the things they could have arrested him for, it's definitely on the more mild side. Like, it's nothing compared to what he's been accused of. But it is a start. And oddly enough, it was on his 66th birthday. And about 2 weeks after an anti-royal organization had called for police to investigate the documents, indicating that he'd shared confidential information with Epstein. And obviously, he's been called into question a ton of times. He's in the files a ton of times. He's had a lot of the alleged victims have brought up his name. Like, he just kind of keeps coming up in the wrong places. So obviously that says something. I don't know why this didn't link up properly. I guess that's not too bad. That's okay. But anyway, so I think he's already got out of jail. Like, he's already been in and out. But they are going to be doing more investigations by the sound of it. And like I said, it's a start. He's been stripped of the last of whatever titles he had. He's been kicked out of the royal court, I guess you could say. And it's a start. It's a start. I mean, we haven't really seen any movement on this stuff, like, for so long. And, even especially, I think a lot of people thought more was going to happen in 2016 and 2017, leading up to 2019. That more could have been done, that more would have started changing sooner. But obviously that didn't happen. So hopefully, now that we are seeing some big arrests, with the Mike Jeffries too had connections to Epstein, so that arrest was pretty significant, and as well as connections to the Les Wexner, which actually, maybe let me flip back to the mind map again for a second. I'll let you know what I mean by that. The Mike Jeffries, that was a pretty significant arrest within this sphere a while back, and their charges were pretty significant. But within the sphere of, like, the Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie and Fitch, like these other clothing and body beauty companies that were all working together within this network, between the fashion, the pageants, all the stuff, there was all these other beauty companies and fashion and whatever, accoutrements, I guess you could say, for the models and whatever they're doing. So tons to go into that with that as that unfolds too as well. But now that we're starting to see some, like, pretty big name arrests, and even if it's, like I said, it's on a technicality, at least they're starting to stink their claws into them, and they're going to probably be starting to do some deeper investigating into the claims. Hopefully, I mean, knock on wood, because honestly, the amount of times we've thought they were going to be doing something about it and then didn't. And I think a lot of people think it's long overdue to stop having a monarchy among the people. Like, already the governments are not always in, just worldwide. I'm not trying to point out any specific governments, but just there's corruption in governments in the world, and there's already enough of that. And having the royal factor, I think, is so outdated. It's long overdue that we stop entertaining that whole nonsense, and for what it represents, and for how they had, amassed their wealth, and what was done in history that, could be, considered awful crimes against humanity. There's not really anything to celebrate about that either, right? So, starting to see some of these people going down for what have been alleged crimes for decades it's uplifting, it's rejuvenating, because obviously a lot of people have been talking about some of this stuff for eons and not getting anywhere. So I am going to go ahead. I've got a few clips prepared that from the news cycles earlier that I figure we'll go through those just to get on the same page here. We'll have a little chit chat. I'll let you guys know some of the other updates on the map, and probably going to try to run for about an hour and a half tonight, because this was, like I said, this was sort of a spontaneous live. Wasn't planning for it, and I'm trying to wrap up some other good videos for you guys that like important videos, I guess. Like, obviously they're good, but important videos to do with the upcoming Reiner trial, which is on the 23rd, and obviously with the Brock Pierce and how it ties into the Buzzfield and the Reiner and all of that in a big way. Like, we've already been this close to him, covering him very closely for where he stood, and I'd already got into the P3DO Den network situation that he was involved in a decade ago. So the fact that when the files dropped, he's like had incriminated himself in a big way of being in the exact same, having the same involvement in that kind of network. It, like I said, it kind of just confirms everything that had been covered, and we've been talking about it, like I said, in the other mind maps as well. So all of it, all the confirmations, is just strengthening the foundation against the evil powers that be. You know, we're starting to advance on all fronts. You know, if you want to consider it like a digital, spiritual, psychological war here against these evil elites. Yeah, we're making progress. We're advancing on all fronts. We're behind enemy lines. Like, it's happening, you know. More of it's being like all this stuff that people have been saying for years too, like all these victims that were discredited and discarded and dismissed of being like, oh, because they had they're drinking or self-medicating whatever various ways, or, you know, had issues with the law or had issues with mental unwellness. But, you know, now that obviously we know that complex trauma can be closely associated to, you know, or the root cause of most of the mental unwellness and people's compulsion to self-medicate and escape, you know, have escapism qualities. So I think going back and reviewing a lot of the victim testimonies that have been in relation to all of this are very important as well. I do still need to look more into the Sasha Riley situation, because that was a pretty explosive breaking story, I guess you could say, breaking testimony that had resurfaced more recently. But definitely need to dig more into that. It is a little more of a complex situation for what I gathered. But then as well, I do want to touch on the Karen Mulder, and because we had sort of talked about the Augustina Natalie tell-all book that closely related to this situation. But the Casablancas and then the Karen Mulder, who was one of the original whistleblowers on all of this, and she had been dismissed and discredited and considered crazy, and she was institutionalized and heavily medicated, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. So we do got a lot to cover. I'm going to try to do it in a good, you know, like a bite-sized segment here, but we'll see where it goes. It may run a little tiny bit longer, but like I said, I'm going to try to keep it concise here. But anyways, we'll roll the clip, and oh, I guess you couldn't see the mind map as I was showing you the Karen Mulder thing. Shoot, that's okay. Whatever. The Sasha Riley, the Karen Mulder, I'd moved over here and was showing you some of these connections. That's fine. We're winging it. It's fine. Grandpa on the internet. We're making it happen. Alright, let me roll the clip. Oh shoot, here we go with the tech issues already. I don't think you guys could hear that, could you? I'm so sorry. Frick's sakes. I'm gonna have to get like an audio switcher software to have everything in one, where I can just flip a switch and it switches everything over. Because it's starting to just be a lot to keep up with, and then with so many different windows and so many different things like open and stuff too, like all the different projects and stuff that I have going in the background, like I'm definitely gonna have to simplify my life here a little better to be able to be more on the ball for these friggin' live streams. I'm so sorry, guys. Let me start that one over. Let's try again. But it's different because I used to run my headphones through the microphone I had before. So now it's the one headphones they're plugged straight to the computer, but then I have the microphone. It's a different setup too, so it's not it's fine. It'll be fine. It's an adjustment.
Breaking news begins this hour. Law enforcement in England have arrested former Prince Andrew on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The disgraced royal family of King Charles is alleged to have shared confidential government documents with the notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Live pictures now. And that is Andrew's residence at Sandringham Castle, about 100 miles north of London. Police have been searching that property for hours. They are also now at his Windsor estate, which is about 50 miles west of London. Fox News legal editor Carrier Bond.
I would imagine the UK court is going to take into consideration, because it's going to hinge on how serious a breach of duty was this. Is the public trust threatened by what he did? Was there harm? And was this information, though, inherently confidential? And that will be an interesting, I think.
In October, King Charles stripped his younger brother of all of his royal titles. Today, King Charles offered his full support and cooperation in the investigation into Andrew.
So yeah, it's like fully a technicality and more based on like bureaucracy and red tape or whatever. Like he crossed the line politically or whatever in such a way. So that's what they're catching him on right now. And I get it. You guys are like, oh, I love that you're optimistic. And I am, because it's a start. It's a start. It's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for how many times like we've struck for the moon here and only hit the trees. It's a start. I think it's a good start. But yeah, thank you, Deb G. I guess I'll catch up with you guys too here. The Brock Pierce has a lot of business. Yes, exactly. He does have a lot of connections within this, and it was a very key central figure in how a lot of the money was moved around without being detected by whatever authorities, I guess, is allegedly. I can't say anything for sure, but for what was confirmed in the files, and like I said, we kind of touched on it in the other lives, and I've live streams, and I've kind of sprinkled it in some of the more recent update videos for the Reiner thing, because he had already been heavily involved in that whole thing. But yeah, he also had like a temple. They called it his temple, but it's like a hotel. The address leads to a hotel, so I'm wondering if it's some underground temple thing that they reference in the Epstein files for that. So I'm definitely going to do a bit more of a dive on that video and like how Brian Peck and all these other industry figures that we've been talking about in reference to that other big, dark, notorious group that's not political or religious, but was assembling over time, these smaller subsect groups assembling to fight for the right to do crimes. Basically, if you can pick it up and put down the I don't know if I can even say what the group is, because like I've already gotten throttled with some of the stuff I'm talking about. So you guys, if you've been following, you know. If you know, you know. I think there's links in the description anyway. Maybe not this one, but the Dark Hollywoods. But yeah, the 66th birthday thing's weird. You guys understand. You guys know it. Yeah, we're back. We can hear. We're good. To do the dive with Sasha. Yeah. It's that sort of was like there was so much other stuff happening at once when that happened that it was so hard to like stay on top of everything. But I've started cleared off more of the pots on the stove, so to speak, as far as some projects go. But I do still have stuff I need to circle back to that was like before even the Reiner thing. I had projects on the go that I need to wrap up. But I am putting a pin in the Sasha thing. I'm not going to let that pass me by completely. I do think that's an important part of this whole thing. So not to worry. But yeah, we'll finish this clip up, and I do have a couple other clips. So I think we're going to probably get the gist of it from this. Yeah, there's a lot to chew into with the map today. So that is the excitement. That's the optimism too. It's just it's making a clearer picture of the greater whole, like, 'cause there is a bigger picture of the whole thing. And these are all like little puzzle pieces. So if we're getting the clearer, more, where people can make their own mind. I mean, it's more of like people are tried in the jury of the public, right? Or the court of the public, whatever the saying is. So maybe if things aren't really necessarily happening how we want to in the legal system with some of these cases, at least if it's put out in the wide public, people can make more better informed decisions of whether or not to celebrate these kinds of people, because a lot of people are, there's a lot of evil operating behind the guise of good. And we're starting to see that more now. The awakening is happening, and that's all good things. It's all good things. I need it. Whatever little wisp of optimism I can find. It's like, when you're in this dark of a rabbit hole all the time, you got to celebrate that. You got to be, it's a momentous thing. It is a momentous thing.
In a statement, King Charles said, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course." Eric Sean is on the story, developing still at this hour. Eric.
Hello, Harris. Well, it is a stunning development following the release of the documents in the Epstein scandal. The arrest of former Prince Andrew on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The younger brother of King Charles was taken into custody at his home by Thames Valley Police after those revelations from the Jeffrey Epstein files released here in the U.S. Police previously said that they were assessing if those emails show Andrew giving Epstein inside information about government business and investment opportunities. They include details of Andrew's official trips and confidential briefings that he had while he served as Britain's trade envoy in 2010 and 2011. That would be a violation of the Government Secrets Act. Well, despite the arrest, Andrew's brother, King Charles, is keeping up a public schedule today. He attended a London fashion event today, and he said he does support the investigation.
I supported an investigation against King Charles and his close friendship with Jimmy Savile all those years, and how they knighted him after, like, that's a whole dive just on its own. The just the royal rot, the corruption in the royal sphere, that's hemorrhaging pus all over us now. They've all the cover-ups, like, this is what's happening. All the cover-ups, all the trauma, all the generational trauma, all the horrifying things they've been trying to cover up all this time, like that. The truth of that, the results of that, all of the outset of that, like the pus coming from that infection is starting to come out from under all the Band-Aid solutions. Yeah, we're all starting to smell it. It's starting to smell bad. Like, it might have gangrene, so we gotta just, like, we gotta cut the shit. We gotta cut the shit. Like, that's where we're at. So, that's sort of maybe a colorful language to put it as, but literally what other better language is there for what we're talking about, for the kinds of crimes that Savile was guilty of and accused of by hundreds, like, over the course of decades. Like, that's a pretty prolific situation. And then there's been a lot of different cover-ups and weird stuff going on over there for a long time, and in relation to stuff going on over here, the Berlin stuff, the Marc Dutroux, how that connected back to, like, the John Bonet, which I still have a few episodes of that to wrap that up. So, but it's all coming together, like, it's all becoming one bigger picture in a big way that we can see the common denominators of truth much more clearly, and that's fantastic. That is a really good thing. Whether they fumble this or not in the legal system, like, it's all part of the Great Awakening, right?
I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten with
Savile, whatever. He's a fucking creep. Who cares how you pronounce his name? His name is P3DO. I get it. Maybe I said that funny. I'm Canadian too. We say stuff funny, but whatever. Fuck his name. If it's anybody else, I would want to be more respectful and respect their name, but his name does not deserve respect anyways. You know who I'm talking about. That's the main thing, right?
and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. You know, Andrew has long been accused of sexual misconduct with underage girls provided by Epstein. He has always denied any wrongdoing. Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre, who wrote a book about it, and she committed suicide, sadly, in 2024.
Rest in peace, power in paradise for Virginia. I still don't believe she did it to herself, same as I think most people don't believe Epstein had done it to himself. And like, just to refer back to like his main defense about her claims was he wasn't able to sweat due to a mental or due to a physical illness, like a medical illness. He wasn't able to sweat, so that her testimony didn't stand up because she said he was sweating and he couldn't sweat. Like that whole we cut that up. We dissected that a while back. We watched that on the live a while back, and that was so ridiculous. That whole, like, it's all coming back around. It's all coming back to the surface, at least.
Well, she had said that Epstein had forced her to have sexual relations with Andrew when she was a minor. Her lawsuit against him was settled. Her family reacting to Andrew's arrest today by saying, quote, "Today our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty." Well, the arrest happens to come on Andrew's 66th birthday and is just the latest fallout from this growing scandal. Already several prominent politicians and business people around the globe connected to Epstein have resigned, and there's lots of speculation that more names could be made public, and we could even see more arrests. Harris?
Eric Shawn, thank you very much. Despite recent scandals and upheaval, a majority of the British public see the royal family in a positive light. A recent survey finds 54% hold a favorable opinion of the royals. Question now whether that will stand.
It is an absolute bombshell. I mean, to put this into context, there has been no member of the royal family arrested in my lifetime. I'm 60 years old. If you have to go back centuries to the last time that a member of the British royal family was arrested. And this is a serious matter. This might just be the tipping point of a gigantic scandal, which represents, I would argue, an existential threat to the monarchy itself.
Forget Piers Morgan. He's in the files too, I'm pretty sure. Whatever. The thing with Diana too, I hope they start looking more into that, because obviously there was, like, with her, who she was seeing at the time, the dad, the Harrods guy, Mohammed Al Fayed, he ended up having a bunch of allegations against him, and then obviously Diana was right in the thick of the rot that she was seeing within just within the family that she was part of at the time. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't believe that that all went down the way that they said it did either. Like, same with the JFK thing. Like, more truth is coming out about how the JFK thing went down. So we have every single right to start questioning all these different major political or monarch events that took place, and like how what the narrative was around it, and what maybe they were trying to cover up at the time, because like this is stuff they've obviously, like, all these different networks have been trying to keep it hush hush all these years. But when you think of the timeline of things that were going down, like between the JFK to the Diana to, and even between with some of those other little things like the John Bonet and like the Adam Walsh case, like some of these other big prolific cases involving children, and how that tied in with certain things on the timeline. Like, there's a big timeline there that a lot of significant events seem to be part of that same spectrum of events, if that even makes sense. I don't know if you could even make a mind map for that. I'm going to think about if there's a way to do a timeline mind map for different things happening around the world that maybe had certain ties in the background that had to do with one greater whole. The sum of all parts is greater than the whole, whatever the saying is. So it'd be interesting to try to do that, because I kind of was mapping a lot of that in the John Bonet video series. That's why it ended up being such a huge thing. And like I said, there's still more episodes to come on that. But that's one of the projects I had going before the Reiner thing dropped. That and the Brittany Murphy is one final episode. I'm going to try to wrap up still. I keep saying it. I know, guys, I'm so sorry. I keep saying it's going to be done soon. But things keep happening, and I keep having to move things around to try to stay on top of everything. So, Lima Batten a colorful past. His archives are well, that's it too. They're starting to talk about the archives within the royal families, like even with like the Playboy archives. I was seeing something about recently that might contain material that is harmful material, or material containing harm, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it's starting to resurface. So going back historically to all these major events and what was taking place around them. It paints a clearer picture for that too, and possibly giving a little more justice for those people. Like even Marilyn Monroe, for what her part was in the JFK. They haven't really admitted as much about that as what I think we know to be true by now, with all the other declassified documents over time and how those things connect. But it's happening. It's happening. This is what makes it exciting. Like these are like major connections that are confirming other major events, and what other people that were going to speak out the truth, that possibly were going to speak out about this sooner, and like could have done something about it sooner, and lost their lives because of it. Coming all the way up to the Cappy of it all, right? So, I think it's at least moving in the direction of justice for those folks, anyways, too. That people are starting to listen and see that they weren't crazy, and that they probably didn't take their own life at the end of it, or that it wasn't quite as it seemed at the end of it, like within the case of the Diana thing, or even with the John Bonet thing, which I know that seems like two wildly different things, but in the grand scheme of things, with the way, really, you'd have to just catch up on the series to find out what I mean about that. But how those things all tied together is quite compelling. It's quite compelling. But anyways.
Let's get into that. Hilary Fordwich, British Royals commentator. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining me. We'll get to the kind of the politics and what moves forward. I'm curious, how long do you think this has been coming? I mean, they had targets here, they moved in, and they are searching them.
Well, pleasure to be with you, Harris, although ghastly circumstances. They have moved fast. This was the Thames Valley Police that drove all the way up to Norfolk, which does, even though it's only about 50 miles, it does take quite a bit of time to get up there, hours actually. I think what is really important about what Piers Morgan said there, an existential threat. I would not be shocked, Harris, to see King Charles have to abdicate over this. When you gave that poll was correct, but that it was very important to note the date. That date was October, November of last year. Right now, the poll is much more like about 28% of the British public are in approve of the way the royal family's been handling this. And I will say Prince William has been behind, zero tolerance, better late than never for King Charles, but he's putting his foot down finally to preserve the royal family.
All right, when you say abdicate the throne for King Charles, that is glaring. So I want to press in there. What makes you say that, and how quickly could that happen?
Yes, I'm not stating that as fact. I'm stating that more as opinion and conjecture because, Harris, this is not just about this current issue. This is about who knew what and when. Think about, like, obviously President Nixon, what brought him down, and it was the fact that he knew about this and covered it. So it's who knew what when, and think about all of those, the detectives. Think about the fact that Prince Andrew then, that's who he was then, used to have these young women trafficked, basically, to Windsor Castle, to Buckingham Palace, and they were giving the name Mrs. Windsor at the gates. So the protection officers knew, the police knew, and obviously there were many reports of this and it was dismissed, it was overlooked. Now what we're seeing with this misuse in public office, though, it's rather like, it reminds me of Al Capone. Remember all those dead bodies, Harris? But it was cheating on tax evasion that eventually had him jailed. I think you can see Andrew jailed, and I think King Charles, given his health issues too, by the British public, it'll all come down to polls. He might abdicate over this because Prince William has stood fast the entire time with zero tolerance on this, and he wanted him as far away from Windsor as possible, hence the ousting from Royal Lodge.
That's pretty good news. I think that's a good step in the right direction of the abdication to kind of taking apart the monarchy of it, and it seems like the sons, like Diana's sons, Harry and William, they don't really want as much of a part in the royal scheme of it all either. Like, they don't want to continue it as it's been. They want to reform and rejigger the whole thing. So I think that's all good news. Like, it's time. Like, there's been so many things that have been hidden and so many corrupt, major industry giants and political figures and royal figures that have been involved in some pretty shady stuff for a long time, and it's like the time had to end sometime. Like, all the house of cards is starting to crumble here.
Right. To further that point, from the king this morning, he said what now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which the issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. I mean, if he is staying or if he abdicates, however which way it goes, his son William now is the future. So this sets him up. Everything's got to be above board.
You're absolutely right. You're actually stating what is the most important. And notice from that statement that Eric read for us from King Charles, what was very important. It's not just what was said, Harris. It was what was omitted. What was omitted? He didn't refer to Andrew as my brother. He didn't refer to him as a member of our family, which the royal family inevitably does. He stated just his name. So there has been, as I said, Prince William, zero tolerance. That's why they've ousted him, stripped him of his titles, everything that was honorary to him. And I think probably one of the very many sad issues about this is Andrew has squandered the support of the British public because he was a war hero. He was favored by the nation, and he has squandered it due to his debauchery. And last but not least, a very dear former FBI friend of mine has always said, Harris, when there's debauchery and deviant behavior in one aspect of someone's life, it'll show up elsewhere. And this is showing up in his misuse in public office.
Hillary, always great to have you on the program. Thank you very much. And we'll get back together as this moves along.
It's a good point too of how they got Al Capone. It ended up being on a technicality, but eventually they got him, and it maybe wasn't about the bodies. It was about the so that's where I think that although it's a technicality, that he's been arrested for, and it's not really any of the more awful things that he's been accused of. It's a start, and it sounds like they're going to be starting to investigate, because exactly, there was so many other people involved that would have had to turn a blind eye. You know, are we starting to understand the symbolism where they cover one eye? You know, or whatever, things like that with the eye. It's a turn a blind eye, you know, and the shush is like, you know, speak no evil, hear no evil, see no evil type stuff. That whole the three wise monkeys, like why all that was like a mantra for the longest time. Like to the point that there's emojis for it, for the three wise monkeys. Like this is the stuff. This is what they're talking about, like turning a blind eye, and all the people that need to be complicit, that have allowed this stuff to happen because they were afraid to lose their job, or they were afraid of whatever, which I get it. In some cases, people have died trying to expose certain things. So it is scary. It is really scary. But I think the more that stuff's coming to light, the more victims and people will be willing to come forward to speak about what they saw, and provide evidence. I guess more people are starting to come forward now already that were people that had worked like within the Epstein sphere as like maids and stuff like that, who had collected certain evidence over time but were afraid to say anything or do anything with it for what for who it had implicated, the power of the people it implicated, and seeing people dying too. Like a lot of these the victims who literally had claimed, like, I'm not that they didn't want to end their lives, but strange things had happened to lead to the narrative being that they ended their own life, right? So there is obviously the level of fear. So we can't necessarily hold it against the people that were trying to just protect themselves, protect their family, provide for their family. But like the time is up. Like now's the time to come forward, and I think we are starting to see that now, which is great. And as more people are coming forward, and again, more pieces of the puzzle are being completed, you know, I think we've got the outsides now. You know, with the puzzle, that you're supposed to start with the corners and the outside edges, and then it makes the rest of it kind of come together easier. I think we have that now. We have the last of the outside pieces, and so all the inside pieces are starting to come together now, and we're going to have the whole picture very soon. So here we are. Happy Espresso 2026, guys. I kind of was joking about it there around the new year, and I guess I really meant it. I kind of didn't think it was going to be this heavy duty, but it's good heavy duty. It's a good espresso. Everyone's waking up. Like last year, people were just starting to wake up, but now people are wide awake and, you know, eyes wide open to it all, and that's great news too. That's why I'm optimistic. I know. There's still so much work to be done. I know it's only just the beginning, and it's just scratching the surface, and yeah, it is only a technicality. But that's why I'm so pumped about it.
Search is going on at properties
Harris,
today.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host.
My bad. I usually try to trim that stuff out, but like I said, I kind of was trying to jump on and get something together for you guys for this today. I do have a couple other clips, but I guess we could just jump over, and I do want to get more into the mind map stuff. And like I said, we're going to try to cover as much as we can in a shorter time tonight. 1 second, let me flip this over. But I do kind of want to see what some of these other news cycles are saying about it. Like, because this has been such a long overdue and prolific scandal, I guess, if you want to call it, or like just a rot, though it's a rot of society. It's been just so long overdue. It's been a long time coming. And it connects to so much, so I'm wondering, you know, I'm kind of curious if they talk about the Seville King Charles connection and stuff like that. So I do kind of want to play some of the other clips too at some point here, but yeah, so we got him on the map. I did also, like I said, I added the Brock Pierce with the digital currency. I'm going to put a little more in here because he was also, he and Jeffrey had met at what was called a Mindshift conference, which I believe was either hosted by or run by Jeffrey Epstein at one of his properties. And it was like a tech conference, and mainly like about crypto and stuff like that. It was kind of the early stages of that, and these guys had lined up, and it was actually Brock Pierce who had introduced Jeffrey to Steve Bannon. So the guy that ended up doing like the final interview with Epstein, they were pretty close. But then he was part of Trump's political campaign. They're pretty close. He's also a go-between from between like other royal advisors to do with money, investments and stuff to do with the campaign stuff. So there's a lot going on there too to kind of dig into that's been more confirmed with the files, what their connections were. And he was arrested for fraud in 2020, but Trump pardoned him, so they're obviously buddies. It's beyond just the 2016 campaign part of it. But yeah, they got in together and they were all working on some different crypto investments together. They were early investors in the Coinbase platform. They were looking into all kinds of stuff. I dug into it, like I said, on one of those. Actually, I kind of talked about it too on the live stream that's, it was like Epstein, crypto, and designer babies or something like that. That live stream that I did, that goes a little more into, painfully so, like actually, like I was really like affected during that stream, I think. Like, it was a really heavy week and I was, hadn't gotten much sleep and wasn't eating really great, and so it was a little hard and emotionally worn down in a way. So I mean, if you want to just wait to the actual Brock Pierce video, I recommend that instead, because it was kind of just a heavy. The energy is going to be heavy and sad in that, more sad in that live stream comparatively to the energy I'm bringing to this stream. Anyways, it was very devastating for the amount of different connections that were confirmed at that point, and yeah, stuff I'd been talking about like forever. I've been talking to, like, the Brock Pierce thing I've been talking about for years, and how I feel that he is still up to no good because of him getting away with it basically before, and what his role was in that original P3DO Den, which, if you guys haven't been following along, the Den network was like an early precursor to Netflix, like back in the 90s, late 90s, and it basically was a front to create harm material of Brock's peers at the time. Brock Pierce was a former child star, and then in his teens he quit acting, and had gotten involved with some people that had launched this Den network, and he was basically like the face of it and was bringing in and luring in other young kids, young boys that were like his peers basically and younger than him, to come and act on shows for this Den network they were basically like online and going to have their own original shows. And it'd be like this teen space that was supposed to be so cutting edge and whatever. And they ended up getting millions of investors, including by companies like Microsoft and, JP Morgan, Chase Capital, that is also connected to the Epstein. And then some of these people were very major people from within the industry that all were early investors. And it turned out that this guy, basically, it was just so that they had the playground to go and have access to all these teens who are given alcohol, and like the same thing, the same story over and over and over again, and people just keep getting away with it, and they just keep popping up with new ones, like, because the Epstein was not the first one, the Diddy was not the first one, and even this one probably wasn't the first one, but we're starting to map them out. But anyways, to make it even more compelling with Brock Pierce, that some of these people, Garth Ancier and David Newman in particular, which Garth Ancier ended up being a pretty big up there guy with the NBC, and David Newman was the former president of Disney Television, just to make it more interesting. But anyways, those people had been named in the Den files, and they were going to go down, and the lawyer that got them off and away from all the allegations against them, Brock Pierce recommended that same lawyer to Epstein when he was starting to get allegations from the girls, like as early as, once they were in touch with each other. I think it was like 2014 there was an email, and it was somebody from 2003 that was making a claim against Jeffrey. And Brock said something like, "Oh, waiting, don't worry, there's more to come, but we'll take care of it," or whatever, something like that. So not only was he like doing the digital currency thing, because with the Den network, when it was starting to go down, they had uncovered and discovered that they had this whole online digital currency for video games. Like, they were selling the in-game currency and somehow funneling that around to launder the money. And Mark Collins Rector had a ton of harm material, like 8,000 media files, images and videos that I would guess had come from this network. Like, a lot of it had come from that, and maybe not also like for where they were in Spain and in and around third world areas, so who knows what it expanded to. But Brock Pierce at that point was able to say that he didn't know what was going on and had that plausible deniability in that situation. But now he's gone ahead and replicated that with the Epstein. Like, this is where it makes it more suspicious and less likely that he didn't know what was going on, considering he went back right into the same thing. And the emails between were like, "Oh, my old industry with virtual currency, there's a company available," and like making an offer to set Jeffrey up with these kind of companies to help move his money around in such a way, right? So if he is saying that's his old industry, and when we know what that was for before, and then we know what Epstein's doing now, it makes him look a lot more guilty the whole time. Like, he became one of the bad ones, you know, like he was a victim at one point, but then he became the evil that trespassed against him in his youth, because there's so much more to that as far as, you know, just some of these photographers, like this Bob Villard guy that was was the photographer and publicist for some of these young actors at the time, including Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. And we know both of them, they're like in their 50s and they're dating like 25-year-olds, which it does seem weird, but I mean, it's at least it's not kids. So, you know, for what they had grown up and surrounded by, I think we don't give enough credit for when they're not ending up being complete friggin' weirdos. And as weird as it is, it's still really weird. It's still not appropriate, really. But at least they're adult women, you know, I guess, right? So, and again, that's still not any excuse for that either. It is still a little weird, but this Bob Villard guy happened to, he was involved in harm and trespasses for years and years and kept getting caught and kept getting away with it. But Brock Pierce was one of his favorites, and Bob had gotten caught using headshots and like topless pictures of a lot of these kids as like the front of the operation, and he ran all these websites that had led to more harmful material he was creating of a lot of these kids. But Brock Pierce was a favorite. He also happened to represent a lot of these other kids that turned into red dots later on. So, I mean, make of that what you will, but that sort of seems to me that these were the kids that were ending up on these sites after being furnished with drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be. Things happened. They made videos, because a lot of these people in this sphere were making videos, like the Victor Salva situation with Francis Ford Coppola and Victor Salva, and that whole, we've covered that in past mind map streams, Hollywood mind map streams. Where is it? It's over here. But that connection with Coppola, Lucas, George Lucas, and the Victor Salva, that they were creating material. So like, it wasn't even just about the trespassing against the kids. There was material being made, and like that young man, older man now, but when he was a kid, he has been speaking out since he was a young man about what happened to him as a kid. And there's a lot of kids in that sphere that just didn't make it, but then other people connected to those same movies and industry people have been vocal about it for a long time. And obviously we've been covering that too, like as we go with all of this. That's pretty much what this map is tracking the mayhem and tragedy of it all. But Bob Villard happened to be one of the major connections between a lot of these red dots, and for what we know he was doing. And then when it's like Brock Pierce was like his protege or whatever, do you know what I mean? So there's a lot there. There is a lot there. Like I said, I don't want to maybe go too deep on that in this stream, but he did have very close connections to Epstein. He had almost 2,000 emails between each other and talking about crypto and these gaming platforms and hanging out with each other like they were buddies. They hung out a lot. They invited each other over. Like Epstein would travel to go visit him in Puerto Rico at his little compound, which usually people were coming to Epstein to his island or to wherever. So if Epstein was willing to go somewhere else, it likely was somebody he considered more of an equal rather than a business colleague, whatever, associate, whatever, right? Like they actually were hanging out. There was a lot of evidence of that too. So it does play into it. But Prince Andrew being one of the clients, and with what some of the victims were saying, like that they were paid after being encouraged to have these what were turned out to be awful experiences with Prince Andrew, and he was paying, they were making payments. After one of the incidents with Virginia, she was given like $15,000 or something. And when you think about where she was coming from, that was a lot to her, and that changed her life. And that obviously would incentivize her silence and, kind of go along. And it's tough because obviously when you have your, room and board being held over your head, that you feel like this is all you can do, like that this is your path, that, you thought you were getting into it to be a massage therapist or to do modeling or to do any one of these other business things happening in between it all, the fashion, the whatever, then they end up getting roped into being more of a traded, bought, sold, and traded object. Eventually all that catches up, and obviously we're seeing that's a repeated pattern through this. And so how are they keeping the network rolling and keeping it quiet? Where was the money coming from and where was it going? And this is why Brock Pierce is such an important part of that. And like, yeah, I've been talking about it for so long, it's not even funny. So to have this coming full circle, and like with the River Phoenix, that I've been talking about it for a long time. So with the Reiner thing coming to light, like all of that, it's a lot of confirmation. And then with the files adding more depth to some of the things that have been going on, it's a good thing. It's scary, it's hard, it's terrible to fucking, it's like been devastating too to have so much confirmation at once. But it's happening. Things are happening. You think that they were well coached to avoid controversy, but then Andrew was given free reign until he was found out. Yeah, like obviously they all have PR training. Like any public figures usually have like PR teams managing them to ensure a positive public image, which at this point, like, we just want the truth. I think in any case, for anybody that's a public figure, we just want the truth so that we can make an informed decision of whether they should be an icon or a celebrity or whatever you want to call it. We should be celebrating people we're celebrating and not having celebrities put in front of our faces and with all of these dark and evil things being hidden. And we obviously, Prince Andrew, that's a different thing, but just in the Hollywood sphere and in with fashion and all this stuff, like all these big people, they got money and they've got accolades or whatever, they've got a good public image in some ways, but then in the meantime they're getting away with so many horrors. I think we're done. I think we're all done with that at this point. Queen let him run wild. Well, I guess he was like the golden child or whatever, and he was protected and kind of was getting away with a lot in his youth. It was just like no discipline, and it just got crazier and crazier over time. So obviously it shows, even in the monarchy, there's unhealthy family dynamics that can be happening that lead to a lot more damage later on. So much chaotic energy crammed into that tunnel, a violent reaction was bound to occur. Diana was always going to die that way, you think? That's an interesting way of putting it. That really is. Oh, yeah, and the Brock Pierce and Matt Prokop, that all connects to the Buzzfield as well. There were connections between Buzzfield and this guy, John Hornaday? No, what's his name? Hold on. There's a guy that's like one connection away that connects Buzzfield and Matt Prokop, who was caught with material, a former child star caught with material. So yes, very, very similar. Yes. Good call. But he is on here. Hold on. This Jeff Hornaday, whose most well-known movie was a TV movie called Teen Beach Movie, and it literally was just a bunch of teenagers in bathing suits on a fucking beach, and it was the most viewed kids movie, like, still of all time on cable television. And I don't think there was even enough kids in the Western world at that time to make the numbers that this thing made. So you could make of that what you will. But one of the young stars on that, Maya Mitchell, she worked on a show called The Fosters, and Buzzfield had worked on the show called The Fosters. He had directed some of the episodes, and one of the early characters, the Jesus character on that show, had ended up quitting without much of an explanation. Like, the explanation he gave didn't make much sense, and he kind of just, like, got as far the fuck away from that as he could right away. And they replaced him. So that is literally, and then Jeff Hornaday and the other movie, so then that connection between him to Prokop was this other movie he did called Geek Charming, a Disney TV movie, and that movie had Matt Prokop and his girlfriend at the time, Sarah Hyland, who has spoken out that he is a problem in other ways too, this Matt Prokop guy. But same idea, former child star, and had been in close proximity to another very prolific publicist slash photographer slash whatever guy that had done things, awful things. He had come up in that Open Secret documentary. He was working at Good Luck Charlie when Matt Prokop was working on Good Luck Charlie. So again, like, the protege continues. It's like passing the baton of corruption and evil, right? But anyway, so that Geek Charming, Jeffrey Hornaday, and One Step Away to the Buzzfield, that whole situation, and the timing of those arrests was quite compelling. And when you consider everything else in between the Brock Pierce and between the, all of these closely tied, because Buzzfield worked with Brock Pierce on First Kid while he was still a child star. There was the movie First Kid, and Buzzfield was like a co-star on that movie. He was like one of his bodyguards, one of Brock Pierce's bodyguards for that movie. So another like 1 degree of separation away from the Reiner, Buzzfield, iceberg whole situation we've been tracking. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, the Matt Prokop, because I'm not letting that one slip by either. It is in here, it's on here, and I probably should mention too in the Brock Pierce update video. There's just so much, and I do want to go more into, like, with the Brian Peck, the John Wayne Gacy, how there was connections to that, to the guy that did the Chicken Hawk movie, and that's all closely related too, you know, that all connects to. So, not to get too much into the Hollywood map when we're trying to do the Trumpstein map, but all of this connects too. Like, at some point, this will all connect over to the Hollywood map, because it all does intersect in such a way, but we're just kind of trying to track the power players and the most heinous offenders, I guess, within the this network. I do have to start filling in, like, with some of the properties and who was connected that way, like how, like, Mar-a-Lago was, like, literally 5 minutes away from the Florida property that Epstein had, and there were girls being sent back and forth regularly for quote-unquote massages, and we know what that really means, you know, and so there's just other stuff there to be considered that we got to tie in. I've got to connect in a better way here to make it make more sense, but it's coming along, and the awakening is happening, and yeah, I've got other stuff here I got to add into. All of this has to connect in and with the people, and yeah, these are a couple other crypto people that were involved with Brock Pierce. So actually, I'll move them over here. So I do have some other stuff to add into before we continue, I guess. For another mind map, I'll have to add more stuff in before the next episode, I guess. I mean, I'm tired. It's been like not even 2 months, and it's been the longest year of life, I feel like. Yeah, Jonathan Brandis. Yep, I want to do. I've mentioned him. He's come up in a bunch of videos, but I want to do a video more specific to him, because obviously he is on here as well, and closely connected to some other very compelling. There's compelling connections, compelling individuals. Where is he? He's on here, I promise. Oh, there he is. Yeah, and he had chosen. It wasn't even just an accidental situation. He had chosen to take his life, and he literally. Actually, I'll play the clip. I think I have it handy, because I had just included a clip of it in another video. A few videos ago now, but still quite recently. One sec. I can see if I can find it quick enough. But he had gone on, like, Conan O'Brien and had pretty much said, like, that this situation had traumatized him with Rodney Dangerfield, and everybody just laughed. The whole audience laughed, but he was, like, basically the guy was displaying himself to this kid, to Jonathan Brandis, when he's, like, this 15-year-old kid, and it was disturbing. It was traumatizing. He felt disturbed by it, but like, that kind of thing was so normalized back then that people just thought he was kind of joking, like, oh, it's funny. Like, it's not really funny anymore, guys. Like, this isn't funny. It's not funny, because this kid very intentionally took his life in his mid-20s. Like, it wasn't just like with River Phoenix and some of the others, how that went down. He, like, very, very intentionally did it. So, one second here, let me, I did find the clip. Let me just get it ready to fit into the container thing here. But definitely, like, there's some of these people, like, that it's been on the side burner for so long, and I've been mentioning in other videos, but they do all deserve their own video, like Brad Renfro, Christopher Petiet, there's, like, Rodney Harvey, there's a bunch of them, there's so many of them, and they all have some things in common, people, places, and things in common that do start to paint a more clearer picture about, what are we doing here, hold on, that are painting a clearer picture about what was maybe going on and what had led them to self-medicating and struggling and going off the deep end, you know, like, because they do deserve justice, instead of going down as, like, oh, they were just a reckless junkie and they died, like, that's being the end of their story is fucking, it's not okay anymore. Like, those kids deserve better, and it seems very obvious now that things happen. Well, and if you watch just my last video, actually, that video, I go deeper into some of these tightly knit networks that were tracking a lot of these kids at the time. Like, there was a group tracking these young stars, talking about their favorite scenes, talking about what they liked about certain pictures, certain photo spreads, magazines. They would interchange all this information in newsletters and share magazine articles, all this stuff. And their favorite kids, because I'd found an FBI document that was tracking this group for years. It was like 500 pages, and I ran that through And then plus some other stuff, like some other filings to do with them, with their old newsletters and stuff. And I ran that through AI, so instead of having to go through manually, just to begin with, for the tediousness, but to prevent myself from having to be traumatized any further than I already was, just having to know about the thing, and all of us knowing about it. We don't need the trauma gore to go with it, right? But I was able to extract what child stars had been mentioned the most in their newsletters and in their interactions and in their publications. And the list are all either kids that died young, accidentally or on purpose, or had spoken out about the prevalence of predators in the industry. Like Elijah Woods talked about it, Corey Feldman's talked about it, and then there's Corey Haim, there's River Phoenix, Jonathan Brandis, Brad Renfro, Rodney Harvey, it goes on and on. Like all of the red dots on that map, on the Hollywood map, are and some of them are adults. They were adult when it, like more adult, like 40s, 50s, like for example John Ritter or like Robin Williams. But there was something weird about their death, and for how closely interconnected they are within the orange and yellow and red dots. I've added them onto the map. But basically every single red dot you see, and orange dots are victims, for sure victims. But every single red dot is a victim that had not made it far, that had ended their life one way or the other, accidentally or on purpose. So anyways, all of this stuff as it's coming together, it's doing so much justice for all of these people throughout time, that people can see it more clearly now and be able to talk about it more openly and for what it is, and not like, oh, they're just a messed up kid with problems, they have mental wellness and blah, 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 like they're just crazy or whatever, like the way Amanda Bynes and Britney Spears and, Aaron Carter were treated. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. So we're being able to come now at it with like a more trauma-informed lens, So yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna run this Jonathan Brandis clip, because like I'm glad you brought that up, because that's like a perfect example. And yeah, he was seeing Soleimon Fry, but he also was seeing Brittany Murphy. They were prom dates, like they were dating each other in high school, and so I do go into the Jonathan Brandis a bit more in that series. And I'm trying to think of where else, but I've tried to sprinkle a lot of this in my older documentaries, like all the Dark Hollywood, all this other stuff. Like it would be about, say, for example, it's about Drew Barrymore, but it's about all the stuff that happened around her. So I talk about Corey Haim in that video as well. I talk about some of these young actors like Rodney Harvey, and I can't remember the other one. There's a couple of them though on here that she was connected to that had passed, that obviously she'd be affected by that kind of thing too. Like people kind of negated the struggle she was going through, but then how many of her peers and like former boyfriends or whatever that she lost along the time, so no wonder she was self-medicating and having a hard time, because there was just so much of a hard time going on around. But that's not something they were allowed to acknowledge, because it was all about the good public relatability, and not talking about the trauma and the tragedy of it all, right? But anyways, let me run the clip, and then we'll swing back, and then I think, we'll go for another few minutes, but I think kind of got the long and short of the update anyway.
Now, let me ask something. You shoot Sequest. Mm-hmm. You shoot Sequest in, because we had Roy Scheider on the show once, and you guys shoot it in Orlando, Florida. Is that
Orlando,
right?
Florida.
Now, how old are you? You're
almost 20. 19.
You're almost 20 years old. So you like to go out and have a good time. Yeah. What do you do? I mean, you're pretty much in Disney World, and the It's a Small World thing would get boring after a while.
There's absolutely nothing to do. I think it's best described as a big mall in a swamp, I think. I'm sorry.
This is why you didn't get the Disney commercial.
No. Listen.
Come to Disney World. Jonathan Brandis says it's a big mall in a swamp.
I mean, that probably didn't give him points either. Like, I think at this point, because he's in his early 20s here, I think this is like 95. Let me double check. But yeah, that probably didn't give him points either. Talking shit. Yeah, it's September 95. Talking shit about Disney at the time probably wasn't in his best interest, because he did have a lot of trouble finding work as he was getting older too. And it's coming up. So just as a warning too, because it is a little bit graphic what he describes that he experienced with Rodney Dangerfield for the movie Ladybug, where they were dressing up as a girl to be like a ringer for a girls' soccer team. And so they wanted to have a boy on the team to help them win the championship. So they dressed him up like a girl, and he was in that. And we know in the other movie, Little Rascals, which Bug Hall had dressed up like a ballerina, and then he had ran around. It's a TW Theory movie, because he runs around for like 10 minutes in his tidy whities in that movie for no reason whatsoever. And on that movie, he's talked about that he had been abused by two people on that set, and that it carried over to some of the other work that he did. But so it seems to be a little bit of a pattern there, and it's like almost like in some of these cases, those kids are being set up for predators in such a way, that there's certain people that are kind of into that thing, and they end up preying on those kids as a result of being in those movies. It's inviting a fan base that they didn't ask for. And when you see, like in that last video, I showed the whole list of all the young kids that were mentioned by this particular group that the FBI was tracking, and they knew about it way back when. All those fan favorites and like what the movies were they liked and stuff, and you can kind of see how that lines up with the TW theory. And like, yeah, like Dev G, exactly, it. If you've been catching up on some of my older stuff, like this is all stuff I've really been trying to get out in the forefront as sideways as I could, because it seemed like trying to talk about it directly wasn't getting me anywhere. Like I tried to do more direct, more like on the nose type videos about this kind of stuff before. Even my earlier videos, even before that, I tried other stuff, other ways, and I couldn't. It just didn't seem to get anywhere. It wouldn't even see the light of day. And then the Dark Hollywood was doing pretty decent. Like that was like really getting stuff out there and out into more of the general masses sphere. But I think by the Charlie Sheen video, because of how hardcore I go into everything about like the Den and the Brock Pierce and how much was covered up, the Brian Peck. All this stuff that lined up even before like the Quiet on Set documentary. We were kind of covering that last night on the live with Obscure Nick, who's been covering all that stuff for a long time too. That all connects to the Brock Pierce and all the other stuff. So yeah, like not only is it satisfying, I guess, to see it all being confirmed, it's I guess it's relieving, because like I don't know what exactly I was trying to do the whole time, but I think I know now. Like the vindication for these kids, for the kids around that were also affected but couldn't say anything, for the people that have been trying to say something the whole time and being dismissed as crazy or an addict or whatever, and for the kids in between that are still suffering, that aren't maybe as well known but have a story to tell too, that it helps them realize they're not alone, that there wasn't something wrong with them, and that they didn't invite it on themselves, that this was a pipeline, they were surrounded, like you couldn't avoid a predator at the time during that era, you know what I mean? But anyways, let me finish this clip and then we'll circle back here. And yeah, it's like, that's why it's so overwhelming though, and devastating, because it's so like, yes, like I knew I was on this track the whole time, and I was so adamant about it, and I've been so about it the whole time, and people thought it was crazy, and the amount of I've been dismissed and disregarded and discarded in ways, and disrespected, I guess, like people just not understanding what I'm trying to do, what and why I'm trying to do it, like, for sure. But it's also devastating to have so much confirmation, to see how much of a structured network it was that was literally just feeding kids in one end and out the other, reminiscent of like The Wall, like the kids on the conveyor belt, and not necessarily about the education part of it, but for the entertainment of it. I don't know if you know the scene when they all have the masks on and they're the kids on the conveyor belt and they're grinding them into meat. Maybe Pink Floyd was trying to tell us something way back in the 70s. That whole movie was really kind of trying to tell us something. All in all, we're all just bricks in the wall. But anyway, yeah, let me finish running the clip here. And I'm glad you guys are making the connections yourselves. Like, you guys are keeping up with the content. You're getting caught up with the older stuff and seeing where it all ties in. And I love that. I love it. Because, like, obviously all this 7 years or whatever, it's been several or more years in this, and seeming to be just spinning tires the whole time. Seeing all this progress in this last year or so combined it's like more, like just this last year or so is more than all the past years combined. More progress now. So yeah, it's been wild. It's been pretty wild. But I guess the other thing I was going to say for Brad Renfro, I go into that deeper. The common denominators there were Misha Barton and Bug Hall, who I was just mentioning. So if you watch the Bug Hall, there's the Dark Child Star Nexus series I kind of started, where I was going to be starting to really just zero in on some of these certain tidbits of a story in particular that, yeah, maybe I've covered it before in another video, because like I've talked about Misha Barton in both the Brittany Murphy and the Drew, but she deserved her own video. Like, I'm starting it there. But Misha and Bug both worked closely with Brad Renfro on a couple different movies and also that were TW theory movies. So when you check those out, and then with what we've been doing with the map, that makes a little more sense there too. Yeah, maybe I'll do like a post and just to show and point for new people coming to kind of joining too that don't know exactly what we've been doing here and what all connects, and to just kind of give like I kind of did a quick start guide there a couple months ago, but like a more specific, I guess, a specific quick start guide, what all connects to what.
It's a fun place to shoot. We got a lot of facilities that we didn't have in Los Angeles.
They're not letting you back
it's
in
like,
there.
No.
Goofy and Mickey are going to lure you into an alley and kick the crap out of you. You know? It's going to be... They'll never let you back.
But we really...
What seriously do you do for fun?
We really just go to SeaWorld, and we went to Disney. The first week we were there, you know, we go to those places. Or we go to strip clubs.
Disney World has strip clubs
I'm sorry,
now?
but I mean, it's like...
What has happened to Disney World?
They got, you know, it's like...
What kind of Disney... What kind of strip club is there at Disney World? It's like a robotic President Lincoln taking off his top very slowly.
Really, I mean, but there's nothing else to do over there.
So let me ask you something. You did a movie earlier in your career. This is a couple of years ago. You did this movie that I wanted to ask you about because I would think this would be kind of a tough thing for a young guy to do. You did a movie with Rodney Dangerfield called Ladybugs. Is that right?
Yeah.
And in the plot of this movie is...
Nobody saw it, you can tell. It's like...
No, let's see.
I rented it on video like 6 months ago.
Oh.
Which, again, too, because we've been talking about this recently of sometimes movies are just a throwaway movie and it's not even about the movie or the quality of the material, but what they're able to shoot and the opportunities of having all these certain people together and in a certain location or under certain circumstances. There's a lot going on there, and this sort of like, he's like, yeah, nobody saw it, nobody gave a shit about the movie, but he had to run around in this outfit and had been victimized for the sake of the fucking movie. So it just is a kind of a sign of the times where some of the movies like that didn't do well, that ended up being a shitty movie, that it wasn't about the movie, you know, like with Victor Salva, it wasn't about his movie Clown House, it was about the kid and the material being made, and that's why Francis Ford Coppola backed his project and gave him the movie equipment to do it. I'm pretty certain. Allegedly. I don't know, actually. Who knows? I shouldn't maybe say that, but George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola have a company together called American Zoetrope, and they gave Victor Salva, here, let me go back to it, they gave Victor Salva the camera equipment they used for American Graffiti that they shot together under their company. They gave him the camera equipment and $250,000 to make this stupid-ass movie called Clown House, which is probably one of the worst fucking clown horror movie type things of all time. He does that. He goes to jail for it because the kid tells on him. He spent a couple, like 15 months in jail, similar to the Brian Peck thing. He's rewarded when he gets out of jail by doing Powder with Disney right away, like pretty much right away, a film he wrote while in jail. Coppola basically told him, oh, going to jail is going to make you a better artist, and it did, apparently, because he comes right out, does Powder and a couple other things, and then he's rewarded by being funded by Francis Ford Coppola to do the Jeepers Creepers franchise, so where there's the throwaway material, and then the reward, where we were talking about, like with Buzzfield, there's Champs and the Birds of Paradise, you know, there's some throwaway stuff, and then there's the rewards of whatever better, like he ended up on West Wing, and he ended up being able to direct and do his own shows. So perfect example of that. We kind of been talking about that. And the Ladybugs movie, which I'm going to flip back here and we'll finish this clip. The Ladybugs movie, for what all was going on behind the scenes there and from what we know now, yeah, there's so much more to dig into on that. It's a lot. But it's all making more sense now, and more people are being able to be compassionate and understanding to this stuff, and hopefully we can be moving to being towards being more of a proactive as a society against it versus reactive, like after kids have been harmed, you know, like if we can just nip it in the bud, see the signs, see the red flags, and prevent it. That's kind of, I guess, what I've been trying to do, just to give vindication to the victims, give more of it to their story too, because of how easy it was to just bury it and pretend like, oh, well, they were just depressed and so they ended their life, or they've been struggled with drugs all these years. It's just another child star tragedy, and they're just they were just discarded. So many kids. So if nothing else, to memorialize them and not let them be forgotten, and keep reminding people and keep it top of mind. But then now to see it come full circle, it makes it all make sense, I guess. All of this struggle and, you know, obstacles and problems with people in between that just didn't get it. that thought it was nuts. That now, the amount of people trying to circle back now that are like, oh, you knew, what the hell, you weren't crazy, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess, you know, I wasn't, but you're not welcome in my life anymore anyway. Like, too bad. It's too late. Too late, too bad.
Again, you had to elaborate. You could have just assumed. You could have said, see, when people are silent, it means they have so much respect for the movie, they dare not applaud.
Yeah, that was great.
Now, in this film, here's the plot. Rodney Dangerfield managing an all-girls soccer team, but they want a ringer, so they get a young boy to dress up as a girl. And that was you.
That was
me. So you were wearing like a skirt this whole movie.
Basically, yeah, it was really difficult going to work as a 15-year-old. You know,
I would think, yeah, that's the age when...
You're insecure anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so going to work in a skirt and having these, you know, 45-year-old big crew guys, you know, hey! You know, it's just...
It's hard.
It looks stupid, so
yeah.
that was tough. But also, the scariest thing was Rodney would refuse to wear clothes. And I didn't know this until I met him, but he...
What? What do you mean he refused to wear...
He doesn't wear clothes. No, listen to this.
There's too much here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have another show.
No. I know.
What do you mean he refused to wear clothes?
He wears like a red silk robe that he's had for like 12 years, and he doesn't wear anything on underneath it. And so it was very traumatizing for me to go to, you know, I mean,
I think it's traumatizing.
His face, like, trying to, like, absorb the reaction he's getting from the audience. Like, they're laughing, but it's obviously he was traumatized by that. He's like a 15-year-old kid. Dude's walking around with his schlang out, you know, and he's trying to just run lines on this fucking movie that he's already feeling humiliated and objectified in such a way. And then everyone's laughing, and he's kind of like, well, that's not the response I was expecting, but okay, I guess we're laughing at it, fine. But yeah, that's a good question too. What kind of strip club do they have at Disney World? Like, yeah, he's like revealing all the secrets, and then even Conan's like trying to make a joke about it, like, oh yeah, this is why they're not hiring you back, and oh da. But he worked, Jonathan Brandis worked very closely within this same sphere that I kind of keep circling back to all these years also, that I'm now closely covering because all the things, all of the infections, all the pus of the infections are starting to ooze out, so we can see it, you know, it's all the same sphere, you know. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. So yeah, to start doing their own videos, that's kind of what I was working towards anyways. And I have another different video coming out for that soon too that I want to wrap up, because that kind of goes along with the Brittany Murphy and with some of the other stuff. It all ties together, and so it's like, which direction do I even go? Like, where do I start? Where do I end? Where do I leave it? Where do I bring it? But he did Sequest DSV, was one of his better known shows that he was on. It ran for a good amount of seasons, I guess. It was a pretty successful show, and that was an iceberg asset. It was one of Iceberg's shows, TV shows. So as if to just bring it back to the main, you know. And then yeah, Brittany Murphy was on an episode with them, and it was like, yeah, that's all in that video too. So it's like I got to get it all done eventually. It does all connect, but it's hard to stay on top of that, to catch it up and stay on top of all the other happenings and revelations.
For us hearing about it, I am traumatized.
You know, but that's part of who he is. It's Rodney. You know, you got to expect that. But I go to a read through for the script the first week of shooting, and he would just be sitting there, you know, in his silk robe. You know.
Okay, you have destroyed 14 careers. 14 careers in one interview.
No,
incredible.
He's incredible.
Right now, they're filing charges against Rodney in L.A. The whole cast of Mad About You and Sequest is being rounded up.
He's great, though. He was fantastic. I gotta, you know.
Other than his constant nudity, the finest actor I ever met.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to run. We've run out of time. It was just, there was too much there. Too much goodness. Sequest 2032, of course, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. right here on the newly destroyed NBC.
And there you have it. I guess it's like all these archives I've been keeping all these years too are all coming into play too now, which is nice. So I've kind of been like a digital hoarder for a long time, and then having to get more drives and stuff to back up some of my like research. Like Marilyn Monroe on her own is like 25 gigs of old clips and, you know, news clippings and different little snippets of stuff. So it's all been adding up over time, but the amount of stuff that now I'm able to like reach back, and it's all coming into play now too. Like some of this stuff, like I've just been sitting on it. Like the Tequila stuff, like I've been sitting on that for like 5 years. Some of the clips I used in that series, with not knowing what I was going to do with it yet or why or how, but I knew at some point it would come into play. So the amount of like random old interviews and clips and stuff that I thought, oh, I better save that while I'm seeing it. You know, the way that that's coming into play now is pretty cool too. Especially since it seems like they're trying to get rid of a lot of the archives of stuff. Like they're seeming to be wiping and burying a lot more from the past. So yeah, trying to stay on top of that and start to organize that too, and start to put that into something more of that into some of the coverage we're doing now and how it comes into play now. Drew B is the epitome of the Yes. Well, that's why hers, like, her, you know, we've got the Charlie Sheen. I was able to kind of do it in one video, which he also is, like, kind of a Hollywood legacy. But her video, or, like, her documentary ended up being 2 parts already, like, 2.5 hour parts already. And that's just covering to, like, her early 20s. And so I still need to circle back and finish her last part. But I'd always kind of, like, where her and Brittany Murphy crossed over, I'd wanted to get the Brittany Murphy series done and out before that. But now... I mean, now I can see why I couldn't get it out before, because the stuff I was talking about in episode 2 that I was speculating about in that, I think it's episode 2 or 3, the drugs that I was thinking that she might have been given by Pasternak and Simon near the end, and that, like, there's a little segment there. They brought that up in the Epstein files now, too, and to confirm more things. So, it's kind of worked out that I didn't have it done yet, because I'll be able to really wrap that video up so tight, so good, because between the Ashton Kutcher, the Diddy, all these other mysterious deaths around her at the time, all of these things that it connects to that people would have never considered, but because I've been doing such the whole sphere of it, I can see where it connects. But I had a lot of struggle trying to get the whole thing out. Like, there was just so many things getting in the way of trying to just get that whole thing out, and then it's evolved over time, and I've added more to it and updated it over time. So we're literally at like the 5th time around. And so by the time I get the 7th and final episode, it's going to be a whole, like a 5-year endeavor. But it's going to be worth it, because it does tie, it's a lot of the glue in between a lot of the Hollywood tragedy that I've been mapping, and connecting to a lot of what's now being uncovered. You know, so she maybe was somebody that was going to speak out about some stuff too. Because how closely she was within the Diddy sphere during that early age, the early times of them starting to have their parties and stuff. Diddy and Jamie Foxx and Ashton Kutcher were like the little rat pack or whatever they were calling themselves. And she had ties to just, between Drew and some of the other, like the Harrods guy, Weinstein. Like, she was passed around the industry in a big friggin' way. So almost just as prolific as Drew, but showing maybe more, I guess, as like without having been a dynasty family, how she was put around like they really were kind of 2 sides of the same coin, but from totally different beginnings, if that even makes sense. But yeah, like, actually this is the sloppy version of it, but here I have like I'd started doing a connections of all the stuff in between the predators and all the deaths surrounding her closely, that had closely related to people she was connected to, and that's all now on the main map, a lot of it. There's some stuff I need to add, but this is like the miniature version of Britney's mind map, and all the people, everything that was connecting at the time, and that's all compelling stuff. So eventually I'm going to get that done, and that's all going to be, I'm going to do a tidier version of this to have in her video at the end. But that's sort of how I came across the mind map thing, because I really just needed to see how, like, 20 deaths, how they really connected to each other, because I had a list that they were all connected, but then putting it on the map really, like, put it into perspective for me. So I'm really looking forward to finally closing that chapter, because, like I said, it's been, like, almost 5 years now trying to conclude that. And, I was able to recover some lost media for that, too, that I had been looking for years. So, like, the way things are coming together now to complete some of these projects that have been so many years in the making, and, like, Drew, I'm going to be closer to being able to finish that off, too. Because a good bulk of the material for the 3rd, like, the script and stuff is done. But they connect to each other. So I didn't want to, like, finish the Britney and then not get the Drew done soon enough. Like, I really wanted them to start coming and being completed around the same time. Which maybe doesn't matter anymore, because it's all part of the same, like, time's not linear, it's all connected anyway, right? I mean, yeah, like, she's sort of like, she's worth being studied anyways, Drew Barrymore, for making it out the other side in one piece, but still kind of, yeah, being within that sphere, but having been able to make her own legacy within it. Like, she broke off and had her own production company pretty early on, and there's a lot to it. And I guess I just need to get older. Like, I was still kind of younger, you know, I wasn't, like, the next part would be going in from her later 20s and going into mid-30s to 40s, you know what I mean? And I wasn't even there yet, so I think I kind of needed to get a little older and have a little more being on the other side of my own childhood trauma and other crap, too, and having a better understanding of that from a more adult perspective before finishing that one off, because there just was so much. There was so much, so many people around that had passed, so many weird people around her, like, it's just so much. It was more than I bargained for. I really didn't expect it to end up being like that whole thing when I started doing her project. So I really hope to wrap more of that up this year too. All the stuff that's just been in the making, and all coming to the same conclusion, really. Like, it's all the same common denominators of truth. It's the same great big elephant in the room, just different piles of shit. So I guess maybe we'll play another one of these newsreel things. One of the more recenter updates I've got, like the Epstein files, British. Yeah, maybe we'll play this one more clip, and then I'll chit chat with you guys for another couple minutes, and then I think we'll wrap it up. I think that's probably a pretty decent segment. Caught up on most of everything, and anything I haven't caught up on at this point, it's going to be in a video coming up soon anyway. But yeah, give me 1 second, and I'll run another one of these clips that I put aside for us here. Since I grabbed them up anyways, may as well play them, to do with this Prince Andrew thing, just to wrap it up nicely with a little bow. Hey, Cheetahman, through friends with Trump behind closed doors. Oh, I missed something here, hold on. Hazing leads to crazy people, yeah. Well, there's a lot of that being revealed too, of how, like, that's all kind of a trauma-based mind control programming type situation, pipeline, going through some of these Ivy League schools. And then how they're all friends on the other side, helping each other with business, like how Tommy Lee Jones and Al Gore were like college dorm people, roommates, whatever you want to call it. And then they've supported each other in life and business later. And then that ties in the whole Reiner, Buzzfield, all that too. So if you haven't been following that, I'd recommend checking that out, because that situation connects to the Victoria Jones as well. And Victoria Jones had passed kind of mysteriously, accidentally, very shortly after the Nick Reiner situation, and their families were pretty closely tied. Rob Reiner and the Iceberg and Hanks and all those people had supported Al Gore during the 2000 campaign, and all their families were spending a lot of time at different galas and dinners and different little private functions. So yeah, that's coming up. I think it's the 23rd is the next court date on the Nick Reiner thing, so I do want to set up a live to cover that too. So yep, we're going to get there. We're going to catch up eventually and not have 47 things on the go, but then just to bring it full circle, Conan and Brian, was the party. The party they were saying that the Reiners were at the night before, and that there had been this public outburst and an argument. It was a Conan O'Brien party, Christmas party. So just to bring it all full circle.
Britain's former Prince Andrew has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago. He is accused of allegedly sharing confidential information with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has previously denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein. King Charles had stripped his brother of his titles back in October and has since evicted him from Windsor. Let's get back down to CNN's Salma Abdulaziz, who joins us live in London. Salma, what's the latest that you're hearing?
I want to start by asking maybe questions of what we don't know and what we do know so far. So we do know that he's been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, but there's a lot of details that are still missing here, of course, Rahel. We don't know the specifics of the allegations of this investigation by the police. We're talking about a period of time between 2001 to 2011 when he was representing the UK as a trade envoy. But what are the specific allegations, the specific accusations of misconduct? We don't yet know that. What information actually prompted Thames Valley Police to make this arrest? That's the key question here, because we understand that they have been assessing this claim for some time now, I would say a period of days. That latest trove of emails where we see these allegations come to light has been out for a few weeks now. So what was the trigger? What was the switch? What was it that the police held on to that said, okay, now is the time when we need to take this very extraordinary action, of course, in this country? We also don't know where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is currently being held. We don't know where he is being held. We simply know that he's been arrested, but we don't know any details beyond that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of compelling connections with some of the stuff happening. I'm even kind of side-eyeing that Peter Green thing that had happened like a couple days before the Reiner thing. And they were saying it was a self-inflicted by accident, but that doesn't sound like it makes sense either. And then the thing with Kiana Underwood, we were just talking about yesterday too. Like, a lot of suspicious things are happening that seem to have ties to some of these networks, like as if they're trying to tie up loose ends before some of these trials, which is sad to say, but... Yeah, I talk about Brooke Shields too. Actually, in both the Misha Barton video and the Drew video, I talk about Brooke Shields' situation. And yeah, she was 10 when they took those pictures, and when she was 17, she tried to have them taken out of circulation, and they denied her request based on artistic merit. Like that, oh no, they're too artful quality of you being photographed by Playboy at 10 years old, and yeah, she wasn't allowed to have them taken back, even though it wasn't even her choice, and her mother sold her at 10. Yeah, because it was like yeah, don't even get me started on that one, but there's a lot of those little stories in between that I ended up working into some of those main documentaries. But they do kind of deserve some of their own little highlight segments, so I'm kind of figuring out doing... I guess I'm just always been like, go big or go home, you know? But I can do just like 20, 30-minute segments and get the point out and, you know, get to the next and make it... show it that way, connect it together that way, instead of trying to cram it all into one big story. But it is one big story when you think about it, and how all the layers and it all connects, and all the people exist within each other's lives, and how the struggles that their peers and friends and whoever are having will affect someone, and so then they wonder why somebody's acting out or having problems, and so let alone their own trauma in the situation, you got to think about what's going on around them too.
Or what the status of that is in terms of his arrest. And we still don't know if he's been interviewed under caution. That's what it's described as in this country. So essentially, has he been asked questions? Has he sat down with a police officer and been asked questions as of yet? And where has he been asked these questions? What location has he been taken to? What do we actually know right now? Well, what we do know is Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince Andrew, who only earlier this month was forced out of the royal residence, pushed into his brother's residence, the Sandringham estate, which is currently being searched by police, has now faced a watershed moment, really, not just for himself, but for the royal family and really for this country at large, being arrested. Now, again, being arrested does not mean being guilty. We do not know the specifics here of why the police have taken this extraordinary action of arrest. That is the detail we need. But you can imagine that the royal family is reeling. King Charles has been trying to get ahead of this time and time again. Last year, he stripped his brother of all his royal titles. I said he's pushed him out of the royal residence. He even took this really extraordinary step of preempting the possibility of this happening right now by saying he was willing to support the police in any inquiry that they had. So there's going to be a sense in this country, first of all, that this has caught up with Prince Andrew. He has been long under question, long under suspicion for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, a relationship that he appears to have lied about in the past, saying that he ended his relationship with Mr. Epstein once he was a convicted sex offender, so around 2008. Now, in these latest email troves, that does not appear to be the case, and it is now clear that he did continue that relationship after Epstein was convicted, and it is that information that led King Charles to strip him of his royal titles, to take these extraordinary steps to try to get ahead of what's happening here. But again, it has caught up with them. There is going to be also a bit of empathy, I imagine, in this country for his family, the York family as they are known here. He has 2 young daughters, they're in their 30s, they have their own families, their faces have been splashed all over the media for the last few days. So many questions here swirling around what is, first of all, a family that represents this country, the monarchy as an institution, and how Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor represented it as a trade envoy. And I did write down some details of the emails that could be in question here. Around 2010, he appears to have forwarded government report visits, details of those visits in Vietnam, Singapore, China. There are emails that...
Oh, Vietnam, Singapore, oh my god, like, the implications there, and my stomach just, like, lurched. Because that's, like, some of the heaviest locations for tourism for people that are going to seeking kids in other countries, I guess. Probably the best way to say that. The most censored way to say it. But yeah, if you didn't pick that one up, that's that. I touch on stuff like that in the on some of those networks in the John Bonet video. But that, like, they're coming in on it hard. It's not even just like, this is the technicality to just get them behind bars and get the investigation going. But yeah, there's something more there, 100%. They're taking it down. They're taking him down in a big way. I'm feeling a little sick, though. Like, a little bit, like a little nausea. You know, the tightness. You can start feeling a little bit knots and a little bit sick in your tummy. Fuck. But, I mean, if this is what it... We gotta hear this shit. We gotta see it for what it is, and we gotta do something about it, so... But it sounds like they really are going in on him, though, more so than just this technicality they've caught him on, which is, that's a good thing, but it's fuck, like, how much worse is it, you know? Because it wasn't just the teenage girls. Obviously, that's bad, too, but it was never just about the teenage girls, you know, and that's being confirmed now, in so many different ways.
That Mountbatten Windsor forwarded investment opportunities for gold and uranium in Afghanistan. He had a duty of confidentiality between 2001 and 2011 as trade envoy. Did he abuse the public office? Did he violate government information? Did he violate the pact for confidentiality? That is the question the police are asking right now. The details around that, we have yet to know.
So this is the kind of story where it generates a flurry of text links, people trying to put together what they know now. Can you remind us the state of play here in the U.S.? Right now, it's the House Oversight Committee, right? Like, who is investigating what at this point?
Well, that's a question that we don't actually know the full answer to. The House Oversight Committee is pursuing some depositions with the former Victoria's Secret owner, Wexner, did a deposition yesterday, but also there's this whole the question.
And he's
of
a major donor,
yes,
which is why people are focused on him.
And the question of whether Bill and Hillary Clinton, what their testimony will look like, that's been going back and forth, but is expected in the coming weeks. But I think that the thing that is notable here is that so far the fallout from the Epstein files, which by the way have still not been fully released despite the law that said that they needed to be, the fallout has been not in America, not in American politics, in ways that people have really been feeling the kinds of results that have been happening in Europe,
yeah.
Or people even stepping away from business dealings in the United States. There are a lot of political figures who keep coming up in these documents.
Yeah.
Documents are not necessarily things that implicate guilty behavior, but we have from the Justice Department from the beginning this statement that there was nothing to follow up on in terms of criminal investigation. We just don't, that statement coming at the front of the release when we see that other things have been followed up.
I want to add one more thing to that, because Prince Andrew in the past has denied the allegations of sexual abuse from people like the late Virginia Giuffre. I just want to read something just because the paper happens to be in front of me. New York Times, they're talking about the Commerce Secretary Lutnick, and they mention that it says he's not the only prominent Trump administration official to appear. The records show that RFK Jr., obviously of DHS, once went hunting for dinosaur fossils with Mr. Epstein. An email file shows that Dr. Mehmet Oz, who's at CMMS, invited Mr. Epstein to a 2016 Valentine's Day party. None of these things are criminal, but they're also part of this dialogue that says the elites, there's an elite out there, they're all buddies, they all hang out with each other, and they accrue the benefits of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in 2016, he was a convicted pedophile. Why are you hanging out with this man in general? And I just am hard-pressed to find that people didn't know that of his behavior. And then they also lied about it. And they lied to the American people. Lutnick actually lied to people and said, I had nothing to do with it. And then he's like, oh, wait, I did have lunch on the island. It's like, who do you believe anymore at this point? And I think, to your point, the American people, I think, are so interested in this because of the power dynamic. Because they see that they'll never be able to get ahead. They're not in these elite circles. They're not in this weird class of people that do things and aren't held accountable and get to play by different rules.
But I also think another thing that sticks out to me when you read through the different revelations that have been coming out of these files is that I think a lot of Americans think like, oh, there's Republicans and there's Democrats, but actually among the elite, they're not really as different as you think. And these are files that include everyone from Naomi Campbell to Steve Bannon going and allegedly hanging out on this island. And so it's like, wait a minute, this elite is like, it's different than like right versus left.
That's where it plugs into the bigger political thing going on here. There's this phrase, you guys both use the word class, talk about it. Ro Khanna, the congressman from California who wrote the bill that was the Epstein file, he has this phrase, the Epstein class, which has now gotten some pickup.
Oh yeah, or the Epstein administration, I've heard him say.
Yeah, but the Epstein class, I think, does get into the, like, people have a feeling that there are some who are getting ahead, who are getting wealthy, while a lot of Americans are struggling and are not able to break through. They see this going on, and what's in these files, at the very least, does seem to confirm that for a lot of people, that there's this rich network of people. They go hunt for dinosaur fossils together. They hang out on an island. They whatever, and then you add in all of the illicit behavior. All this, it's stuff that is remote from anything that most people are dealing with, and makes this the economic, the stratification going on in American society feel much more real.
Yeah, it puts a literal face on it.
Now, let me ask.
Okay. Well, there we got it. There we have it. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that. I think that was, yeah, that was pretty much everything I think I wanted to cover. If I forgot anything, it'll be in a video or be in the next one anyway. But yeah, a lot of that, the Diddy coverage too. The stuff with Naomi Campbell is coming to surface. She's in the files. Like, Oprah needs to be looked at. Ellen, I'm finding some more compelling things about Ellen, in a sideways way with some of the conversations I've been having with Obscure Nick about how the overlaps in some of the research we were doing. It's like we were meaning to just talk about the Ghana thing when I first reached out, and we'd kind of connected on Twitter there. But the more of the stuff of both of our research is sort of overlapped in that way, in that direction, and building a bigger picture, like especially with that movie that we saw, Kiana, what they had tried to hide that she was on that movie, and they tried to hide that movie in general. So what was going on there, and all those people are connected, right? And looking back, yeah, on the Chester Bennington and, you know, that whole situation, like, it seems like all these good people were really trying to come out and say something about something, or, you know, doing we're going against the wrong people, I guess. Maybe they stopped taking the carrot, you know, they stopped chasing the carrot or whatever. But it's happening. It's happening. Things are starting to, like I said, you know, the house of cards is starting to crumble. So that's it's all good things. It's all a good sign. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at that, guys. I'm going to be doing some updates, I think, to the TW theory thing here, and I might add some more to. There's those couple articles that are kind of expanding. I don't think they're in the description of this video, but in the other, the Dark Hollywood and the other Reiner series videos. Pretty much all the other videos I've been doing has the links connected to the Three Wise Monkeys in those descriptions. All those are kind of pertaining to the bigger, the overall whole, and I do have some updates to add to a couple of those articles. But yeah, stay tuned, because I am going to set up a live. I think actually I'll set it up tonight in advance, just so it's there coming up for the 23rd for Nick Reiner's trial. And then I actually got to double check when BuzzField's next trial is coming up. But I will be keeping an eye, obviously, on this too. And I did have this other Epstein video I was trying to get going here. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to juggle all the things. We're doing our best. I haven't had a day off in like 6 months. Like a proper full, you know, that I wasn't looking at or doing something, researching, reading, whatever, you know. So at some point I'm going to need a day off here, but I want to really see some real progress. And I think at least the rest of the Prince Andrew of the situation, that is a pretty good start. So I might actually take a day sometime maybe on the weekend, take a full day to just unwind, unplug. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. There's a lot of great stuff coming up. Also, don't forget the deeper dive of the Kiana, what we were talking about yesterday. Obscurenik is having their big comeback to YouTube and get back on doing the threads and stuff. They had kind of gotten discouraged and, had been speaking on all this stuff for years too and gotten discouraged and stepped away from it for a while for their own sake of their own mental health. And coming back in a big way, I'm seeing a lot of people that were really good comrades in this good fight getting reactivated again and coming out and speaking out. So don't forget to check that out. Tomorrow I'll be there probably, might be there a couple minutes ahead. Not probably, I will be there, but the premiere for tomorrow, we can chat as it's going. So if you guys want to be there for that, I will be there for that. But yeah, we've got some other stuff we're already chatting about, talking about on the live, and it's gonna do different videos based on like how they connect together, and they've got some good insider info about some of the stuff on the other side of the Nickelodeon thing that I haven't had the chance to do as much research into as I have the other side. So it's pretty cool that how that's lining up. So I'll keep you posted on that stuff too, and then yeah, I think that was everything. Yeah, so you guys take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and keep your eyes wide open. This video has been brought to you by Patreon, where I post more info, resources, bonus, and uncensored content. Everything is free to all members. Paid members just get early access, and some other features and benefits. It's mainly just a way to support the cause, stay informed with behind-the-scenes updates, and there is a public chat. I share all other news and updates outside of my body of work to the Eyes Wide Open group and over on Twitter. Everything mentioned and more can be found in the description. Lastly, make sure to like, hype, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Red bricks crumble under my feet, a path that whispers a cursed heartbeat. Shadows stretch long, they know my name. Every step forward, it's all the same. The trees lean in, they're alive tonight. The moon's too scared to give me light. Follow the red brick road, they said, where it leads, where it ends, no one's fled. It pulls, it drags, it swallows whole. The red brick road's got a price for your soul. Laughter echoes, but no one's near. A ghostly choir feeds on fear. Bricks are slick, they bleed, they gleam. Am I awake or trapped in a dream? The wolves don't howl, they just stare. Their eyes burn bright, they don't care. Follow